Please welcome James A. Wenning, Market Manager, Middle Market Banking, Northern California, J.P. Morgan Chase.
Good afternoon, everyone. First, I want to thank Jim Wunderman and the Bay Area Council and all the Bay Area leaders that made this afternoon possible. This is an incredible Outlook conference, and we're delighted to be a part of it. As a global firm who's listening to and serving our clients on a daily basis, we are consistently hearing about the struggle to find great job candidates and prepackaged skills for jobs. There's a desire to hire, but frustratingly, a mismatch. As an employer, we agree that the skills gap, providing meaningful career pathways to good-paying jobs, are the two most crucial issues of our time. That's why at J.P. Morgan Chase in 2013, we announced a 5-year, $250 million commitment called New Skills at Work, a key component of which is providing innovative, data-driven solutions to key stakeholders to develop workforce strategies to pair up employers and employees. This project is the largest ever private sector aimed at addressing the skills gap and is completely separate than the state's $250 million Career Pathways Trust. Right here in Northern California, the firm has committed $8 million over 5 years to workforce readiness and demand-driven training. The funding is aimed specifically at middle-skilled jobs requiring more than a high school diploma, but less than a 4-year degree. I'm delighted to announce the release of the Bay Area Skills Gap Report today. Its comprehensive study looks at these middle-skill healthcare and finance jobs in San Francisco and our surrounding counties, and discusses the underlying issues and highlights how the public, private, and nonprofit sectors can come together to close this skills gap. We have a distinguished panel that I'd like to now introduce. Our first participant is Jay Banfield, Founding Executive Director of Year Up Bay Area. Vaughn Ton Quinlivan, Vice Chairman of Workforce and Economic Development for California Community Colleges. Cicely Joseph, Vice President of Corporate Responsibility and Chief Diversity Officer at Symantec. And our moderator is my good friend and colleague, Joni Topper, Senior Market Executive for Government, Nonprofit, Healthcare at J.P. Morgan Chase for the Pacific region. Welcome.
Thank you, Jim. I'd like to echo Jim's comments and thank the Bay Area Council for their leadership in this issue, and also thank and welcome my esteemed panelists joining us today. We're going to talk about their experiences. As Jim mentioned, J.P. Morgan has just released our Bay Area Skills Gap Report, which points out that the Bay Area has had a very strong economic recovery and is looking for strong job growth in the future. But when it comes to middle skills jobs, and these are jobs, by the way, that make up 27% of the Bay Area's job postings today. Those job skills have some troubling challenges. In our report, which you'll find on your table or you're sitting on it, so look for that. It looks like this. First of all, we pointed out that too many of our Bay Area residents are not able to meet the job requirements employers require for middle skills jobs. They don't have the education or they don't have the training. And about a third of our Bay Area residents are actually in low skills jobs. Those pay, $18 or less and don't meet the standard for a living wage, as we reported in our report, at about $23.34. So this group of people, they have a very strong motivation to reach a middle skill role, which can pay anywhere from maybe $20 to $50 in a living wage or in an hourly wage. So that's one issue. The second issue is that there's a process within the job skills or within the job postings where bachelor's degrees are required as opposed to maybe associate degrees or skill certificates. That means that an individual who may be very well qualified for a middle skills job is really prevented from getting that job. And part of this has to do with the Bay Area itself. For adults that are over the age of 25, almost 50% have a 4-year college degree. So if you're posting a middle skills job in the Bay Area, you're very likely to get a very strong competitive field, many with bachelor's degrees, and that makes it very difficult for individuals without a bachelor's degree to compete for that job. So there's a strong limitation there. This is not helpful for employers. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to have a strong talent pipeline for all skill sets in order to grow your businesses. And in addition to that, we know that baby boomers are retiring, so a strong pipeline is really quite important. I hope you'll get a chance to read this report. We focus in initially on healthcare and finance, as Jim mentioned. We do that because, number one, there's a strong growth prospect for those sectors. Number two, the wage paid to those jobs is anywhere, as I mentioned, from $20 to $50 per hour, so it's really meaningful. And lastly, if that's an area where we can make an impact and really bring more people into those jobs, help them grow careers, we're just going to have a stronger impact on the community. So with that, what I'd like to do is turn over some conversation to our panelists who have been working diligently in this area for some time. I want to start with Jay because he lives and breathes this every day. He's working with 18 to 24-year-olds, and this is that moment when people kick off their careers, so it's a really important time. And so, Jay, if you would, maybe talk about what Year Up Bay Area is doing, the scope of that work, and how you feel that's addressing this opportunity gap for middle skill jobs.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Joni. I think about the skills gap and how well understood that is becoming, and largely because of the work that you're driving with your firm, of the understanding of the middle skills gap that exists within our country. What I think is less well understood is the fact that there are people being left behind in our economy. As we sit here right now, there are more than 60,000 young adults between 18 and 24 who are disconnected from the economic mainstream. And we know that there are tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people within our community who are underemployed. What I think is also even less well understood is the fact that with a targeted, very specific intervention, it is easy to reskill people to fill jobs that companies have. And that's what Year Up is all about, is that we talk to companies. Actually, I know there are a number of them in the room here today, Symantec obviously, and JP Morgan Chase as well, understanding what are those middle skills that you're struggling to fill, and then how is it that we can partner with community colleges to devise a curriculum that addresses that particular hard skill need. But I think, as we all know, that one of the important ingredients with a successful employee is the soft skills. And so we layer on top of the technical skills, professional skills, business communications, with an opportunity to then go demonstrate their skills on an internship or an apprenticeship. And we've seen great success. We've been around for 15 years. We're in 14 cities now, here in San Francisco and Silicon Valley. Our most recent graduating class, nearly 90% of them had jobs earning $40,000 a year. Upon graduation, if you think about where they were coming beforehand, on average, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a year. So it can be done, and that's something that we want to highlight in our work together.
Oof, that's great. Well, Cicely, first of all, congratulations, because Symantec has really jumped out in front on this issue, and I think really taken control of a situation that your company was facing. So I think this is a great discussion today. With respect to cybersecurity, which is where this work effort has evolved, can you talk a little bit about how your firm came to understand this is what we needed to do, and how you forged this partnership?
Yes. So from everybody here, you don't have to be a cybersecurity expert or in the cybersecurity field to know that cybersecurity is a really big issue today, and that individuals and corporations are facing more threats than ever before. Our research has shown that just last year, cyber threats increased over 40%. And then against small companies and small businesses to medium-sized businesses, it's over 60%. So a real issue. And what our customers need are good products, they need good services, they need good insights to know what's coming, but they also need people that can deploy the technology, and that's where there's a big lack. In the US alone today, there are over 300,000 cybersecurity jobs that are not filled. And we've learned that about 20% of those can be filled with people who don't have a four-year college degree. On the other end of the spectrum, We know that there are many young adults that are underemployed. We also know that diversity is a big issue in the tech field overall, and it's especially a big issue in cybersecurity, where we find there is a real lack of diversity of women and professionals of color. There are actually about 11% women that are employed as cybersecurity professionals today. So when you put all of that together, there's a real opportunity to create a program, which is what we embarked on, a program where you try to bring more young adults into the cybersecurity profession, people who don't necessarily have a college degree. We're targeting underrepresented groups, such as women and minorities, and create a career pathway so that they can move quickly through a 4-step process. So the first step is getting people excited about the field in general. What is it? Why do I want to do it? The second is really learning and being trained and getting some certifications in the field. The third are internships, on-the-job training, so that you actually have work skills and learn about what it is. And the fourth is assisted job placement. And so we launched this program last year. It's a pilot program. Year Up is one of the partners that we work with, a great partner, because they really understand the age group we're working with. They've been successful in bringing people through these types of programs on an IT track. And especially because there's a piece here that's very important, which Jay did allude to, which is the soft skills part. You know, resume writing, interview skills, how do I show up on the job, the kind of support I need to get there, transportation. So really, I think, great partnership. Right now, our students have gone through the 6 months training. They're in their internship programs. Some of them are already receiving job offers. I've had the opportunity to meet with them throughout the program. It's really exciting to see them, to see it become a reality. Yeah.
Well, and your relationship, I think, with Year Up has been an important part of this program being successful. So just quickly back to you, Jay, for just one question. Obviously, we're talking about soft skills, but there's also the hard skills, the technology. Could you talk a little bit about what you feel is important with regard to relationships with the educators before we get to Vaughn? How important is that partnership, and how do you work with the educators?
You know, I think all of us would agree, and I think everyone in the room would agree, that the key issue that we face and that challenges us here in the Bay Area is how do we get skills to market at the speed that business requires and at the volume that it requires? Really, that is how we fuel the economic engine of the Bay Area. And so we have to think about how to become more nimble. And community colleges are going to be the vehicle for that. And it is the largest educator within the United States, and certainly think about it in California. So what we need to be able to do is have conversations, and we really need to think about redefining a new ecosystem for workforce development, where it's really a tri-sector approach, where the private sector has a role to play in terms of informing the market of what skills are necessary, creating opportunities for people to demonstrate those skills on internships and apprenticeship. And we as nonprofits need to be sourcing talent that is not accessible currently to the private sector, and bring that to bear with the community colleges. So once we have that conversation of what the skills are required, we work hand in hand, arm in arm, here locally with Foothill College to develop a curriculum. And then we know that with that partnership, to get that to go to scale, that has to occur through the community college system. So that tri-sector approach and that truly integrated ecosystem is what we're driving towards.
Okay, well, this is perfect for you, Vaughn. As Vice Chancellor for our community college system, this is at the top of your plate. We know that. And we're talking about programs that, if they are scalable, could be very effective for lifting our economy overall. So can you tell us a little bit about where the community college system is focused right now, how you feel about these partnerships, and where you see this going?
Well, thank you very much, Joni. So I actually came from the private sector before taking on this role as Vice Chancellor of the 112 community colleges, heading up workforce and economic development, and was actually from PG&E, the architect behind PG&E's Power Pathway program, which is exactly the model that Jay has talked about. And so I relate to all of you, and we all have the common issue when we need to hire, which is when we need to hire the right people with the right skills at the right time. That's the magic. The right people with the right skills at the right time. Unfortunately, California is already taking 20% longer to fill these middle skill jobs than other states. So if we don't begin to intentionally think about developing our workforce pipeline the way that we do other critical infrastructure, we're going to just exaggerate this problem for all of our employers. And especially, Jay alluded to the time to market for emerging skill. I'd like to just give an example of how you as an employers or as a community can build the public capacity while you're solving your own operational problems. So I'm going to harken back to my days at PG&E. We were rolling in 500 electric vehicles ahead of everybody else. Those vehicles came with a warranty. If our mechanics touched those warranties without the training, it would void the warranty. However, these vehicles were coming out so fast, the manufacturer could not set up the training for our mechanics. So it's a little bit of a catch-22 here, so what to do? So what we decided to do was to call upon 9 community colleges whose faculty had the closest expertise to what we needed. We talked to the manufacturer, got their curriculum, and then our master mechanic trained those 9 colleges, and those 9 colleges trained 225 mechanics of our company within a very short period of time. And from then on, that curriculum sustained, and those faculty taught their own students using that curriculum. And so we built public capacity while solving our own operational problem. So you have 26 community colleges here that could be part of an integrated supply chain for the region to produce reliable, quality, and diverse talent pool. And really, it's a time where the region can really mobilize to look at what specialties, what are the talent goals, so that instead of having, in order to get a talent pool, and instead of always coming up with a talent puddle, which we can already see.
Well, going along that path then, Cicely, thinking from an employer's point of view, if you have the opportunity through the educational system to actually bring these skills to bear, to get the training together, what is it that you would share with employers in the room about how this impacts your business, how the collaboration needs to work? What kind of help would you give them or insight?
Well, I think as employers, I would say there are 3 things that we can think about when we're thinking about a program like this. One is think about utilizing your expertise, so what you clearly do and bring to what your mission is, right? And making sure that you're utilizing that. The second piece is thinking about, and I just go back to when we were first thinking about this program. Somebody, an executive in our team said, well, why wouldn't we do something more altruistic? This is so much around our business. Why wouldn't we do something like plant gardens? And I said, well, that's not what we do. We're not gonna change the world because we're gonna change the world and make a difference and have an impact on this very important issue because it's what our expertise is and what we bring to bear. So I think it's really important to go back to your mission and what it is that you do in your job and what expertise you have. That would be number one. The second is what's gonna meet a customer need. So here for us, the opportunity was to not only increase the number of cybersecurity ready professionals, which our customers and partners desperately need today, but it was also to diversify the workforce, which is something else that the tech industry and the cyber industry very much needs, to be more innovative, to be more competitive, and it's something that the tech industry is very much thinking about today. So that was the second opportunity. And the third is really to just address, yes, a social issue, right? An issue where you're gonna have an impact. For Symantec, we get to make the world a safer place for everybody, and we also get to make a more diverse workforce for our tech industry. So that's how I would think about it from an employer perspective, how to build a program like this.
And have you also had the opportunity to develop partnerships or internships that you feel has leveraged that? Just in terms of developing which career paths are most effective for your business to create?
Yes, yes. So we actually have developed and co-developed the curriculum that we're using right now. We've brought some of those interns are actually working at Symantec, and so we're getting to kind of experience the pilot as we go through the program and see how this really works within a company so that we can continue to improve and get better results as we move along the path.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I think I would probably now, we've just got a few minutes left, really ask our panelists to think about what they would ask as a call to action to those of us here in the room. There's obviously a lot of work that can be done. We don't want to boil the ocean, but I think we've found from having conversations here, there's some very focused work that can be done. So I would just start off maybe with Vaughn to talk about what you think this group could do to make an impact on middle skills career paths.
So we have called upon the community colleges to come to action under a framework called Doing What Matters for Jobs and the Economy. Doing what matters for jobs and the economy. And that is to focus our investment on key sectors that drive regional economies. So given that, we would like the call to action for all of you is to work with our 26 community colleges to anticipate what your skill needs are, to plan specializations across the 26 colleges, and to advise curricula and provide work-based learning. I think these are very tangible things that can be done that can help the community at large, but then also, again, solve the skill needs and the operational needs of our employers.
Great. And you have a task force today also that's working, I think, very diligently across all of the sectors. I mean, you have representation that are also helping guide that process, correct?
Yes, that's right. The Board of Governors has commissioned a task force on strong workforce, job creation, and a strong economy. And we've had 20 conversations across the state, 14 of them internal to the system, 6 external town hall, including one that will be, the wrap-up town hall will be hosted by the Bay Area Council. And that's looking at how do we do this better and create 1 million more middle skill jobs and get people into those middle skill jobs over the next decade.
Okay, great. Jay, how about you?
Sure. If I think about, part of my job is to talk to executives about their talent needs. And whenever I ask the question about what are you looking for in an employee, I hear the same things. I'm looking for someone who's determined, who will persevere through obstacles, hardworking, good team player. And then I hear about some of the technical skills that the companies are looking for. And I'll often say, well, can I see some of the job descriptions that you have? And when I look at the job descriptions, invariably the things that the person led off with are nowhere to be found. And it makes sense. It's hard to measure. It's hard for me to put on my LinkedIn profile that I have grit and I have determination, right? It's hard for me to do that. And so it makes sense why employers struggle to do that. But when we fail to recognize those skills, we're excluding tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people within the Bay Area from what's morally right, but also what makes sense from a business point of view. And so I think about the millions of young people in our communities through life circumstances, whether that's being in foster care or homelessness or having children of their own, that through those life experiences have built up a grit and a determination and a persistence that make for phenomenal foundational skills for an employee. Now, I'm the first to admit that that's not sufficient. That's not enough. You have to have, on top of that, real skills and a real opportunity to prove yourself. So I would say that as we think about this middle skills gap, that we have defaulted to a 4-year degree as a proxy for too many things. There's no question that 4-year degrees play a role. I have one. It's been important in my career, and there are jobs for which that's required. But I would argue that we make the mistake of saying that all jobs require that, and in fact, that's not the case. We, as a society, have to create other proxies that demonstrate those skills that can be turned into great employees. And so that would be my request, as we think about the skills you're looking for in your organizations, how do we become much more precise about what it is that we're looking for? And how do we broaden the definition of what talent means within the community? And so if you think about a young person who has lived on the streets and has found a way to survive, give me that person all day long if they have technical skills, right? And so we need to be thinking much more creatively, and it's beyond this moral imperative. If we're going to grow the way the economy demands that we grow, that we have to broaden the talent pool. We can't recruit our way through this and try to find new people or steal people from other organizations. We have to grow the pipeline. And so broadening the definition of talent is one thing that I would love to see us do, and look for proxies like a Year Up, for example, but other organizations that are sourcing this raw talent in our communities.
That's great. That's really powerful. Cicely, how do you feel about that? And maybe you might have
So it's always hard to go
similar idea.
last when there's brilliant thoughts. So I would echo that. I would say that, I know in our own industry, we have a bias to hiring four-year and graduate degrees. And we also have a real shortage of talent. And I would say that it's really important to look very differently at how we get the talent that we need and defining what those needs are. I recently met a young man who's going through this program who spent a lunchtime educating me on the new cyber threats that are out there and what was happening in the industry. It was remarkable, and his passion, his excitement. We would be proud to have him as an employee anytime, and could really see a career pathway where he could contribute fully to our industry and to our company. And I would just encourage everyone to think very differently, or be open to thinking differently about the hiring requirements that we have and the kind of skills that we're looking for, because I think there's a real opportunity for us to leverage a broader section of our community to bring in different types of thoughts and thinking processes and individual differences that will make all of our companies better, stronger, more competitive, and vibrant.
And I think we all know how important it is for people to have hope and dreams and great career aspirations. It's something that we can all individually work towards making possible for our communities, so that's an absolute. But can we think differently about these middle skill jobs? They're 27% of the job postings out there for the Bay Area. Can we look at them differently? Can we open up the requirements and help develop people to have better career paths and certainly obtain that living wage, which now appears to be at times even more difficult to attain. So I think that's a great call to action for everybody here. I want to thank our panelists who are really in the thick of this, and I think have given us a lot of great ideas and certainly a great perspective on what the possibilities are. So thank you very much.